It all began on a Tuesday that felt like any other. The morning sky hung low and gray, still damp from a night of steady rain. People moved with a quiet purpose, their heads down, their collars up against the chill. At precisely 9 o'clock, the First Union Bank on Elm Street opened its doors. She turned the heavy brass key in the lock. The click, echoing. He simply slid a folded piece of paper across the counter. The head cashier, a woman named Anna, performed the familiar ritual. A small, practiced smile crossed her face as she stepped inside. The day was a known quantity, a series of predictable actions she had performed thousands of times before. The bank itself was a space of clean lines, bright, sterile light. A low hum from the ventilation system filled the air. The polished marble floors reflected the overhead lights. A row of cameras, small black domes, were mounted high on the walls. The main vault, with its imposing steel door, remained locked behind a partition. Customers trickled in and out, their transactions brief and routine. The rhythm of the day was slow, steady, and utterly normal. It was a place where nothing was supposed to go wrong. A man entered the bank, his movements unhurried. He wore a dark, heavy coat and a simple baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He did not rush to the counter or draw any immediate attention. Instead, he walked calmly to Anna's station, waiting his turn like any other customer. He spoke in a low, even voice. He did not raise his voice. He did not brandish a weapon. Anna unfolded it with hands that had suddenly grown cold. The words seemed to vibrate on the page. Fear, sharp and icy, shot through her. Her training took over. With trembling hands, she gathered bundles of cash from her drawer. He took the money. Then, he turned and walked out. The cameras recorded it all. The police arrived to a scene that was both chaotic and eerily calm. Anna was shaken but unharmed. The initial review of the security footage began immediately. A web of digital eyes designed to leave no area unobserved. One camera was fixed on the main entrance. A second provided a wide view of the teller line. A third panned slowly across the central lobby. On screen, the robbery unfolded with a chilling clarity. The detectives watched the footage over and over. They saw the man's dark coat, the nondescript cap, the way he held his shoulders. They saw the note. They watched him receive the money and turn to leave. Every angle seemed to have been captured. But the system, for all its sophistication, had a flaw. It was a small oversight. One of the lobby cameras was partially blocked by a large, leafy potted plant. This created a blind spot, just a narrow slice of space. For a few critical seconds, he could step into this darkness and become invisible. And that is precisely what he did. As he left, he took one deliberate step into that patch of shadow. It was a brief, almost insignificant movement. He was there for no more than 2 seconds. But in those 2 seconds, he did something. The police knew this moment was key. They zoomed in. They analyzed the pixels. They saw the slight scuff mark on the heel of his left shoe. A tiny metallic tag sewn into the collar of his coat, glinting for a fraction of a second. The detective's world shrank to the size of the laptop screen. The hum of the computer's fan was the only sound in the quiet room. He began his search with the smallest of details, the metallic tag on the robber's coat. It was a small, obscure brand. He methodically typed the brand name into search engines, scrolling through endless pages of corporate websites, apparel catalogs. The glow from the screen cast long shadows, the hours blending into one another. The search was a slow and patient process. His focus then shifted to online marketplaces, local forums. His queries were simple: dark coat, men's outerwear, for sale. The laptop's keyboard clicked softly in the silent room. After hours of searching, he found a promising lead. A user on a local buy and sell forum had posted a comment. The username was generic, J. Smith 87. The detective delved deeper, tracing the digital footprint. Car parts, old electronics. It was a thin trail, but it was a trail nonetheless. Then he found it. The user profile had a single grainy photograph. A man with his arm around a friend, standing in front of a distinctive-looking building, A low-slung warehouse with a corrugated metal roof, a large faded number painted on the side. The man in the picture was wearing a baseball cap very similar to the one seen in the bank footage. The detective saved the image. He cross-referenced the warehouse's appearance with industrial park layouts, the timestamps, the pattern of buying and selling. It all painted a picture. It was not the picture of a master criminal, but of an ordinary person leaving faint, scattered clues. The trail was no longer cold. It now had a potential location. The pale blue light of the laptop illuminated a single address on a map. The ghost was starting to take shape. There would be no sirens, no flashing lights. The operation was scheduled for dawn, the hour when the city is at its stillest, caught between night and day. A small team of officers gathered, their dark tactical uniforms blending with the shadows. They spoke in low murmurs, their breath misting in the cool air. Their boots made soft, rhythmic sounds on the wet pavement as they moved toward an unmarked van. The van rolled through the empty streets, its engine a low rumble. It came to a stop a block away from the Target warehouse, a hulking silhouette against the slowly lightening sky. The building was dark and silent. There were no lights on inside, no signs of activity. One officer used a tool to pry a corner of the heavy door, creating a narrow gap. Another slid inside, followed by the rest of the team. The interior of the warehouse was vast and cavernous. Dust motes danced in the thin beams of light. The air was thick with the smell of rust, old oil, and damp concrete. A single bare light bulb hung from a long wire, unlit. The only sound was the soft scuff of their boots and the faint drip of water. The space felt abandoned, but it was not empty. In the center was a man, alone, silhouetted by the flashlight beams. He looked up, his face pale. He did not seem surprised. He looked small and frail. He slowly raised his hands, his movements weary. There was no resistance, no attempt to flee. The officers moved in cautiously, the tension giving way to a strange sense of quiet finality. The raid was over before it had truly begun. He was not a hardened criminal. He was a man crushed by debt, a man who had felt invisible for a very long time. He did not speak at first, simply staring at his hands resting on the table. The officers did not press him. They just waited. The silence in the room was a heavy blanket, filled with unspoken questions. Then, with a long, slow exhale, he began to talk. His voice was low and unsteady. The confession was not a dramatic monologue. It was a simple, human story of desperation. Sleepless nights spent worrying about bills, the feeling of being trapped, of seeing no way out, the robbery, a desperate, poorly conceived idea. He said he had visited the bank weeks earlier and had noticed the potted plant. The blind spot seemed like a sign. He had thought it was the one detail that would keep him safe. He spoke about the fear before the robbery, terrified during it, and consumed by guilt afterward. He admitted to buying the coat from an online seller and using the cap to hide his face. He confessed to writing the note, his hand shaking so badly he had to rewrite it 3 times. He did not make excuses. He simply laid out the facts, his voice filled with a profound sense of relief. The officer wrote his statement down. When he was finished, he read the words back to John, who nodded slowly. The case was closed. It had not been solved by a dramatic car chase or a complex forensic breakthrough. It was unraveled by a series of small things.